There is a quiet revolution happening inside the human body after the age of 70, one that doctors rarely discuss openly, and that most people only discover when it is far too late to make a difference. Think about the people around you who are 70 years old or older. How many of them are completely free of chronic disease, untouched by medication, and living with the energy and clarity of someone decades younger? The answer, if you are being completely honest, is probably very few. In fact, medical researchers have found that the vast majority of adults over 70 are living with at least one, and usually two or more, chronic conditions that silently reshape the course of their later years. So if you are over 70, or if someone you deeply care about is, and none of these diseases are present, you are not just lucky. You are extraordinary. You are, by every statistical measure, a rare person. But here is what makes this conversation truly fascinating. It is not just about luck. There are forces at work, biological, behavioral, environmental, and even psychological, that determine who becomes that rare person and who does not. And understanding these forces can change everything. So let us take a deep, unhurried look at 5 of the most common diseases that claim the health of people over 70, why they are so widespread, what science is learning about them, and what separates those who escape them from those who do not. Because knowing this is not just interesting, it is potentially life-altering. Imagine a disease that has been building inside your body for 10, 15, even 20 years before anyone gives it a name. That is the terrifying reality of type 2 diabetes. It does not arrive with a dramatic event. It creeps in through decades of microscopic changes in how your cells respond to insulin, the hormone responsible for allowing sugar to enter your cells and produce energy. In people over 70, the prevalence of type 2 diabetes is staggering. Studies consistently show that more than 1 in 4 adults in this age group are diagnosed with it, and a significant portion of the rest have a condition called prediabetes, meaning the clock is already ticking. What makes diabetes so dangerous in older adults is not just the blood sugar itself. It is what the high blood sugar does over time. It quietly damages blood vessels, narrows arteries, inflames nerves, compromises kidney function, and dramatically increases the risk of heart attack and stroke. The eyes deteriorate, the feet lose sensation, the kidneys begin to fail. Diabetes does not just reduce quality of life, it shortens it. And yet, for the rare person who reaches 70 free of this disease, researchers have often found something remarkable in common: a lifetime of consistent physical movement, a diet low in refined carbohydrates, and perhaps most surprisingly, a stable emotional life with managed stress levels. Stress hormones like cortisol directly impair insulin sensitivity. The mind and the metabolism are more deeply connected than most people ever realize. Here is something that should make everyone pause. Cardiovascular disease is the #1 cause of death worldwide, and it kills more people over 70 than any other condition on this list. The heart is a muscle, the most important muscle in the human body, and it has been beating without rest since before you were born. Every year of life, every meal, every stressful moment, every cigarette ever smoked, every sedentary afternoon, they all leave their mark. Plaque builds up in the arteries. The walls stiffen. The rhythm becomes less reliable. Blood pressure climbs. And most of the time, the heart reveals none of this until it has already suffered profound, sometimes irreversible damage. What is astonishing and deeply hopeful is that researchers studying people who reach their 70s and 80s with pristine cardiovascular health have identified a surprisingly consistent pattern. These individuals are not necessarily those who ran marathons or ate perfectly. Many of them simply maintained a moderate level of physical activity throughout their lives, prioritized sleep, maintained strong social connections, and never smoked. The power of these seemingly ordinary habits is anything but ordinary. The heart rewards consistency far more than it rewards perfection. And the rare 70-year-old with a healthy heart is almost always someone who, decade after decade, chose the small good habit over the convenient bad one. If this is opening your eyes, do not keep it to yourself. Share this description right now with a family member or friend over 60. The information ahead could add years to their life. There is a kind of suffering that does not kill you. It simply makes every waking moment an act of endurance. Osteoarthritis is that kind of suffering. It is the most common form of arthritis, and by the age of 70, estimates suggest that over half of all adults show some degree of it, whether they have been formally diagnosed or not. Osteoarthritis is the gradual erosion of cartilage, the cushioning tissue that sits between bones in your joints. When that cartilage breaks down, bone begins to grind against bone. The result is pain, stiffness, swelling, and a slow but relentless loss of mobility that changes how a person moves through the world. What makes osteoarthritis particularly insidious is how it compounds other problems. A person in constant joint pain moves less. Moving less accelerates muscle loss, weight gain, and cardiovascular decline. Depression frequently follows because chronic pain is one of the most powerful triggers of hopelessness and emotional suffering. And yet, the rare 70-year-old who escapes significant osteoarthritis almost always shares a surprising characteristic. They moved regularly throughout their lives, but they also maintained a healthy weight. Every extra pound of body weight translates into several additional pounds of force on the knee joint with every single step. The mathematics of weight and joint health are merciless and unavoidable. Lightness, in both the literal and metaphorical sense, protects the body in ways that are only fully understood when it is almost too late. Of all the conditions on this list, dementia may be the one that people fear most, and for deeply understandable reasons. It does not just affect the body, it steals identity. It erases decades of accumulated experience, relationship, and personality. It transforms the person you have known your entire life into someone unfamiliar, someone who may no longer recognize your face or remember your name. Alzheimer's disease, the most common form of dementia, affects an estimated 1 in 10 people over 65, and the risk roughly doubles every 5 years after that. By 85, nearly 1 in 3 people are believed to show signs of the disease. The science of what causes dementia is evolving rapidly and holds some of the most genuinely surprising discoveries in all of modern medicine. Researchers have found that the brain changes associated with Alzheimer's begin not in old age, but potentially 20 to 30 years before symptoms appear. In middle age, sometimes even earlier. This means that decisions made at 40, 50, and 60 are quietly shaping the brain that will exist at 70 and beyond. Sleep, it turns out, is one of the most powerful protective factors ever identified. During deep sleep, the brain activates a remarkable cleaning system that flushes out the toxic protein buildups linked to Alzheimer's. People who chronically sacrifice sleep, and there are tens of millions of them, may be making a silent but devastating trade. The rare person who reaches 70 with a sharp, clear mind is often, among other things, someone who has taken sleep seriously for their entire adult life. Breathe in. Now breathe out. Now imagine that each breath out does not fully complete. Imagine that with every passing year, a little more air becomes trapped in your lungs, stretching them, weakening them, making the act of simply existing physically exhausting. That is the lived reality of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, a condition that affects hundreds of millions of people worldwide and is the third leading cause of death globally. In adults over 70, COPD is devastatingly common. It is caused primarily by decades of inhaled damage, cigarette smoke being the most common culprit, but also air pollution, occupational dust, and even the indoor burning of solid fuels in poorly ventilated homes. What breaks the heart about COPD is how preventable it is in most cases, and yet how invisible it remains until the damage is extensive and irreversible. The lungs do not hurt when they are being harmed. There is no alarm bell. A smoker who begins at 20 and quits at 50 has already done damage that may only become fully apparent 20 years later. And yet, and this is the part that gives genuine reason for hope, the lungs have a remarkable capacity to stabilize and even partially recover when the assault stops. People who quit smoking at any age improve their prognosis significantly. The rare 70-year-old with fully functioning lungs is almost universally someone who never smoked or who quit early and decisively. That one choice, that single repeated daily decision to not light a cigarette, echoes across decades in ways that are impossible to fully measure. After looking at these 5 diseases, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, osteoarthritis, dementia, and COPD, a remarkable pattern begins to emerge. The rare person who escapes all of them is not someone who found a magic supplement or followed a perfect diet. They are almost universally someone who moved their body consistently, slept without compromise, never smoked, managed their emotional world with some degree of wisdom, and maintained meaningful human connection throughout their life. These are not secrets. They are ancient, well-established truths that have been drowned out by the noise of modern life and its endless parade of shortcuts and distractions. The tragedy is that most people do not take these truths seriously until the diseases have already arrived, until the diagnosis is sitting on the table and the window for prevention has quietly closed. And that is precisely why this conversation matters so deeply. Because if you are reading this and you are not yet 70, you still have time. Extraordinary time. Every single day is a deposit into the account of the health you will have in your 70s, 80s, and beyond. And if you are already 70 and you have escaped these conditions, do not take that for granted. Understand it as a profound gift, and understand that the choices you made over a lifetime made that gift possible. There is something almost poetic about the rare person who stands at 70, strong, clear-minded, mobile, and free of the diseases that have claimed so many others. They are a living proof that the human body, when treated with consistency and respect, is capable of something most people have stopped believing is possible: a long life that is not merely survived, but genuinely, beautifully lived. Don't let this end here. Share this description with everyone over 60 in your life. Subscribe, save it, send it, because the rare person of tomorrow is the informed person of today. Your health story is still being written. Make it a great one.